tip for you or how you can get involved and help when you're feeling upset or frustrated about what's going on. And we're just waiting to go live on the other platforms, but I have questions that I will be answering, and I will prioritize your live questions. So we are good to go. So hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday live show with me, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. I'm an immigration lawyer in Texas. I've been doing this work for about 20 years, and I am coming to share with you updates. And there are so many changes happening. I want to give you the reality of what the policies are, talk through my perspective on things, have a discussion with you if you've got thoughts or questions. And then if you have specific questions related to immigration cases, I'm here for that as well. And I will wrap up with a tip for you all for how you can get involved. So at my law firm based in Texas, we have clients all over the 50 US states for immigration cases. Our focus is peace of mind and security for immigrant families. That's what we are all about. Everybody's bilingual, and I'm available if you have questions in Spanish. So I will not lie, this week was a bit of a grind in terms of immigration policy. I mean, they all really have been since January 20th. This one was sort of particularly like, oh, are we serious right now? So let's just go through it. So the Trump administration has already canceled, this is for Venezuelans. The Trump administration has already canceled the TPS, temporary protected status extension for Venezuelans. That is currently being litigated in federal court. There was a hearing last Friday before a federal judge who made indications that it was obvious that the administration was being discriminatory against Venezuelans for some of the things that they have said publicly. But that judge did not go so far as to issue an injunction on Friday. So we're watching what's happening on the TPS extension very closely, and I'll let you guys know what happens with that. Also, the parole program that was a Biden era program is called CHNV parole, which stands for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. This was a special program for people who had family members in the United States to be able to come here legally. They'd get processed in, they'd go through a background check, all of that would occur, and they've all come here. There are tens of thousands of people. Well, the Trump administration, as expected, has canceled the CHMV parole program and has indicated that their intentions are to rapidly deport all of the people from these countries as soon as the program cancels, which is in 30 days. I think we should expect litigation on this cancellation as well, but the announcement just happened on Friday. Today's March 25th, so this was, March 21st or whatever the day was. And so it's too soon for a lawsuit to have been filed yet or a hearing to have occurred. But both of those programs, of course, are targeting, or cancellations are targeting, especially the Venezuelan population by the Trump administration. And we've talked before about how they're going after Venezuelans. They deported a bunch of young Venezuelan men to El Salvador, making claims that they were all gang members of the Tren de Aragua gang. There's been no evidence of that. In fact, to the contrary, the families of these men have, emphatically denied any gang involvement by a lot of these men. So I don't really know or understand why the Trump administration is particularly targeting Venezuelans. That's something that I haven't really been able to wrap my head around yet. I mean, obviously there's some racism involved. And I think that perhaps it is just because there are so many Venezuelans fleeing the Maduro regime that there are millions of displaced Venezuelans, mostly in South America. And it could just be that we have more people coming from Venezuela, and therefore they are a target by the Trump administration. But I don't know. It's something that I'm ruminating on. And if anybody has specific thoughts about why Venezuela, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So in response, both Haiti and Venezuela have issued do not travel advisories to their foreign nationals who are maybe considering visiting here. Venezuela is going to probably be on the red list of countries on the upcoming travel ban that has not been announced yet. There's going to be a list of red, orange, and yellow countries. Venezuela and Cuba are expected to be added to the red list, which means nobody can come from those countries. Again, I don't really know why that is, because most of the Venezuelans are fleeing the Maduro regime, but that's what's going on for Venezuelans. Definitely my advice to Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, anyone on that parole program has been and remains to be, please consult with an immigration lawyer yourselves. Every person needs a consultation, because you might have other options. You might be able to get married, or you've gotten married. You might be able to apply for asylum. There's so many other things that somebody might be able to do, but you don't know if you don't go to an immigration consultation and you go to a notario, or for example. The next point of news is about another funding cut for migrant children. So there are about 26,000 migrant children who are unaccompanied, meaning they're not with a parent in the United States. That funding has been slashed. I can tell you, I work for a nonprofit. I don't work for it. I'm on the board of a nonprofit. And we are facing significant funding cuts because of what's going on, and as are all of the other agencies that are providing legal services to these children. It's pretty sad. It's pretty awful that these kids are going to have to go before judges, and they're going to be subjected to fast track deportation because of what's happening. Next point of news is about the IRS. They may have to start sharing their data with ICE. That has never happened before for obvious reasons. You think about like people who are filing tax returns are paying taxes, right? They're cooperating, they are supporting this government. It doesn't behoove us as a nation to start targeting people who are doing everything the right way and paying their taxes. But that does not matter. So to the Trump administration, I'm sorry, hold on one sec. Do you want that chair? Do you want a chair? Okay. Making sure everybody's comfortable behind the scenes. We got a whole crew, but in any event, it looks like the IRS is going to be forced to start sharing data with ICE. Here's my message to undocumented immigrants who have been filing tax returns, who are like freaked out because this is just one more way they might find out about you. There are so many ways that ICE can find out about undocumented people in the United States. Number one is the registration requirement is upcoming in April. Number two is this sharing of IRS data. There's so many other ways. I would just assume that you are on the radar, right? This is the era of Facebook and social media and phones and all of that. It's really unlikely that anybody who's undocumented is not going to be on the radar of immigration. And so if they are heightening enforcement, assume that they're going to be able to find you. And I don't say that in a scary way. I say, so take action. So know what your rights are, consult with a lawyer, file for an immigration benefit, get a lawyer. It's like, I've been trying to get this message out that when I have a client who's picked up by ICE, I'm able to respond because it's an emergency, but I already have all this information about my clients and I don't have to turn them away. But we are getting calls from people who never hired us and their loved one has been picked up and we don't know anything about this person. We don't even know their complete name. We don't know their history. And it's really difficult, if not impossible, for us to have the resources to respond to those emergencies. So just understand, information sharing is going to be going on at the government. What that means is everybody should prepare. Now, the next 2 points are really targeting people like me, immigration lawyers and other lawyers who are standing up to the administration. They are, number one, they have eliminated the ombudsman's office in the Civil Rights Division. So the ombudsman's office is a way that we've been able to traditionally get cases unstuck. Like if something gets stuck or it's paused, we can go to the ombudsman and we can say, hey, we need you to be the liaison between us and the agency. And sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can do congressional intervention. But they've canceled. They've closed the ombudsman's office. And then on Friday, Trump issued a memo directing the attorney general to go after immigration lawyers and big law pro bono attorneys, as if like these are evil people. Like all the big law pro bono people, they are so incredible. These people are like the smartest, most amazing litigators. They take these really hardcore cases. They do such a good job with it. I've worked with a handful of them over the years, and they are some of the best, most impressive, most ethical lawyers I have ever known. Like top echelon people. And so this whole memo is like, these people are all fraud. They're telling their clients to lie. We need to bring disciplinary actions against them. And it's pretty chilling, of course, but here's the deal. Immigration lawyers, the ones that I know, are not going to like stop filing cases or stop suing the government because there's this memo. I think that they kind of have picked the wrong group to go after, is my initial take on this situation. So there you have it. Bit of a beat down, the news of the week. I've got a couple of questions. Instagram from Challenger29, is EB5 active? Yes, EB5 is the investor visa. or the millionaire's visa, they call it, where you invest somewhere between 500,000 and $1 million, and it's a pathway to a green card. We give about 8,000 of those a year, and that's not currently going anywhere. Of course, Trump has suggested that there's he's going to create the gold card, which would replace the EB-5, but that would require congressional support and then, passage of a law. So I don't think the gold card is actually going to replace the EB-5 at the end of the day. Susan via TikTok, how much is the consultation? Our consultation is only $50 for a 1-hour appointment. We're going to go through everything about you, your history, your immigration history, your family history, your work history, what you want to do, what your goals are. We talk through the benefits. We help you weigh the pros and cons. It's really an exploratory conversation about you and the future that you want. And I think sometimes with these consultations, people, like, I've certainly been guilty of this in the past. A lawyer will just be like, oh, okay, tell me your data. Okay, here's what we need to do for your strategy. But really, on our consultations, we're really thoughtful about having a holistic conversation about you and what you want. And you're not always going to qualify for something, but you walk away with a lot more information. In order to schedule a consultation, you can message us on any of the social platforms that you're watching from. My team is available to set up your consultation via that platform, or you can call us. The best phone number, or we have several phone numbers, but the one I'll give you right now is 512-599-8500, because you can text us or WhatsApp us at that number. Will they be deporting people who are still waiting for their court date? My significant other is from Venezuela and doesn't have his court date until 2027. Yes, they are going after Venezuelan people who are in court, especially if you haven't filed an asylum application. So if your significant other has not filed their asylum application, please schedule a consultation as soon as possible, especially if you are a U.S. citizen. Then there might be something that we could do outside of asylum. But yes, I mean, I like shouting this from the rooftops. I have been for a while, and now I'm like screaming it. Venezuelan people, if you're under legal status, TPS or parole, please consult with a lawyer to see what else you can do, because that is the main target of the Trump administration right now, is Venezuelans. I don't know why, but it is. If anybody knows why, let me know. What happens if you're waiting for an adjustment of status through marriage? Can you be detained during this process? And how can you prove that your case is ongoing to avoid complications with immigration authorities? Somebody who is adjusting status to a green card through marriage is not technically in lawful status, but you're also not out of status. It's kind of a funny little limbo status to be in. So theoretically, someone like that could get picked up, but that's not practically what they're doing. They're not picking up people who have adjustment of status pending. That's not what we're seeing. Now, I did hear of a case, and I think we talked about it last week, where a couple, where the U.S. citizen husband and the wife from, I think she was Colombian, they flew to Puerto Rico and then they flew back. She had a pending adjustment, and then ICE got her at the airport. But that's, flying to Puerto Rico, in my mind, is not domestic travel. That's not safe. And even domestic travel right now is not super safe. So I wouldn't recommend traveling like that domestically for anybody who's undocumented until you have like a work permit, because TSA is asking people about visas, and we are getting more reports of ICE at the airports. But generally, no, someone with a pending adjustment is not getting picked up. That's not what we're seeing. My husband is waiting for his visa, and I am a U.S. citizen. We have a case in process, and I have a copy of the letter from the visa department. What other documents should he bring besides his passport and the letter? So if you're doing a consular process case and he's going abroad to get his immigrant visa to come back in, he's not protected. That's different than an adjustment of status. Okay, that is completely undocumented, even if you have an I-130 pending, even if you have a consular case pending. Now, we make the argument, of course, that somebody like that should not get detained. And so I would, if this person were my client, I would give you a letter of representation that says you are my client, and if anybody has questions about your status, to talk to me. I would not carry your foreign passport around with you, because that's evidence, against you if you get picked up by racist police, etc. And I would have evidence of your pending case available, but not carry it as a way to stop an action. When you are interacting with law enforcement, you have constitutional rights, and you have the right not to discuss your immigration case. And it is my opinion that people should not be discussing their immigration cases in interaction with law enforcement, like the police, because frankly, it's not their business. And so that's going to be like a gray area. Some people are going to say, like, I'd much rather tell them my status, and maybe get out of it. I don't think that that is a good idea. Um, and I think so. For example, for this person, married to a U.S. citizen, in process, not adjusting status. You are out of status. What you need is a lawyer who's on your side with a letter of representation, so that if you get stopped or questioned, your lawyer can jump in, and you can just say, here's my lawyer's phone number. I prefer you talk to her. Instagram, D Jasper Dash. Since the parole program has been terminated or revoked, can my current employer file for an H-1B? Yes. And the H-1B lottery is going on right now. We do very few of these. We don't do a lot of employment immigration in my firm. I think we have 2 of these right now. So I'm not I don't have the deadlines burned into my brain, but yes, an H-1B is a possibility. If you get into the lottery, that would start in October. So you'd probably have a period of time, depending on your parole, of when you might fall out of status. So you'd need to cover that period of time and figure that out. So I would recommend a consultation. Okay, I already answered this one. What should you do if you have an EAD card with a valid driver's license with the A number designation and a pending I-485 while being married to a U.S. citizen? So that's a protected status. You have a work permit. Once you have a work permit and a driver's license, you're pretty protected. Again, don't travel to Puerto Rico. You don't have a travel permit, but you're okay to drive. You have a driver's license. You're okay to travel domestically. So that's a pretty safe status to be in especially once you get that work permit. As a U.S. citizen, I applied for a CRBA, that's a consular report of birth abroad, for my child, but it was denied. Currently, the I-130 petition is in process. If I apply for a regular Mexican visa for my child, will it have any impact on the ongoing petition? No, it won't impact the petition, but it might get denied. And the reason for that is that a child who has a pending case from their parent has indicated their intent to immigrate to the United States permanently, right? The I-130 is filed, that kid's going to move here, that's on record. So when somebody applies for a visa, like a tourist visa, the one thing they're looking at, the main thing, is to make sure that this person doesn't actually have the intent to immigrate, because it's a temporary visa. So if you've got an I-130 pending, often you'll get your visa denied. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it. It won't hurt the family case, but just be aware you might not get the visa if you've got the I-130 already pending. Blueberry Muffin via TikTok. This is a good name. I just got married to a citizen. Congratulations. I have DACA and did advance parole, but I'm afraid to apply for a green card. I'm also afraid of doing the interview, that they will take me away. First of all, I'm so sorry that you have that fear. But second of all, I don't think you should be so afraid. I understand why, certainly, but you are eligible. I mean, obviously, we'll review everything else in a consultation. DACA, advance parole, marriage to a U.S. citizen, that equals eligibility for a green card. And I think you should apply. And I think it would be a good idea to have a lawyer. For example, at my firm, we go to all the interviews with our clients. We're not going to send a client alone to an interview. I can only think of one, maybe 2 clients in 10 years who have been arrested at the interview. Both of them had criminal histories they didn't tell us about. So as long as you don't have a criminal history you don't tell us about, you should be pretty protected at that interview. Hi, Brenda. Thanks for your question. What are your thoughts on ICE and IRS potential agreement to report suspected undocumented people? Yeah, I mean, this is coming. The IRS is going to be forced to start sharing data with ICE. I think it's obviously a terrible idea, because it will discourage people from filing tax returns and paying taxes, which is just it's like thinking 2 steps ahead. Why would they do this? But what this means is that, and this is really the message, is that people who are undocumented in the U.S., there are so many ways that immigration might be able to find you. So many databases that they can access, including the IRS database. So really the best thing to do is just assume, if you're undocumented, that you can be found, and then act from that assumption. So, and I'm not trying to scare people, but I'm just saying, there is an illusion, I think, for some people who believe they're under the radar, that they just won't get caught. And I think that is a risky illusion. I think it's much better to assume you're on some list somewhere. ICE can find you. They know where you live. I mean, it's like we're here. We are on social media together, right? You're on social media, and then take action accordingly. Consult with a lawyer. Know what your rights are. File for benefits if you qualify. Prepare, etc. Rather than assume like, oh, if they're just not going to find me if I don't do anything. I don't think that's the way it's going to function. And they're about to announce a registry, and a lot of people might end up having to register. That goes into effect on April 11th. So we'll be talking a lot more about that. I'm waiting to see if there's going to be litigation and an injunction and all of that before I'm starting to talk in more detail about it. With the new administration, if I have my EAD/AP, that's work permit and advanced parole travel permit approved, is it still safe to travel outside the country? Traveling in the country is a lot riskier than it used to be. People who are departing and coming back are facing heightened scrutiny by CBP at the airports. Definitely people with visas are being asked a lot of questions. A lot more people are being sent to secondary inspection. So I would not, I would want to talk to you about your case. Like, have you stayed in legal status the whole way through and you've never even for a day fallen out of status and there's just absolutely nothing questionable on your record? Zero law enforcement interaction, 0 days without legal status in the country, zero work without permission. Yeah, maybe that person is safe to depart and come back in. Like, you haven't engaged in any protests on any college campuses. You'd have to have like the squeakiest, cleanest of records in order for me to say, yeah, I feel comfortable with you departing and coming back in on an advance parole with a pending adjustment. Otherwise, I would say probably it's better to wait, especially if you are wanting to take a vacation or just visit family you haven't seen in a long time. Just wait until you get the green card to do that kind of travel. Rasso Service International, you helped me get my green card. Again, thank you. I appreciate the comment. I'm so happy for you. That's great. Can I be detained or deported even having a case waiting with USCIS? Technically, yes, right? Having a case pending with CIS is not in and of itself a protection against deportation. But the thing to remember is people have rights. And if you've been here for longer than 2 years, you have the right to stay, fight your case, and to go before a judge and to defend yourself. So it's not this is blanket deportation. So that's the thing is like if you have a pending case, it helps you assert your rights. And in some cases, it might discourage an enforcement action against you. But I need more information on what kind of case you have to sort of help you understand the level of protection that it would come with. What would happen if someone actually gets detained? Can we assure they won't be deported? Okay. If somebody gets detained, they're going to be picked up by the police or by ICE. But eventually, let's say they get picked up by the police, they're charged with, I don't know, driving without a license. Okay. They're either going to get out on recognizance or pay a bond, and then they're going to be taken to immigration, or they're going to get picked up by immigration. Then they're going to be processed by a deportation officer in an ICE processing center. I'm in Austin, so that office is on 8th Street. There's a new one in Pflugerville, but there's a ton of them. And these ICE officers are making these determinations day in and day out about the people that they are processing. What they're looking for, ideally, is to just get people out of here quickly, right? Somebody who's already got a deportation order or who signs an agreement to be deported is the easiest thing for them. But the people who can't be deported because they already have a deportation order or they refuse to sign a deportation order, which is my recommendation, don't sign anything until a lawyer reviews it. The people who have been here for longer than 2 years can say, or they have a fear of returning to their country, can say, I want to stay. I want to talk to my lawyer. I know that I have rights and I want to fight my case. And then what happens is that deportation officer has to place that person into removal proceedings. They issue a document. It's called the notice to appear. And it contains the allegations against this person and the charge against this person. And then it contains a court date in the future. And then the question is this person going to be detained or released? That is a question. The detention centers right now are full. They're at max capacity. So a lot of people are just getting released, even though they're being placed in deportation proceedings. And then they have to go before a judge in 6 months or a year. So the thing is, the detention, that moment where you're being processed by a deportation officer, you have to assert your own rights. refuse to sign anything. Tell them you want to stay. Tell them you're afraid of returning to your country and you want asylum if that's true. Tell them you've been here for longer than 2 years if that's true. Do the things you need to do to get yourself in the process of removal proceedings where you have rights. And these are things that we would help people understand and prepare for once they become our clients. So the first thing to do if you have questions about this is to schedule a consultation with us. And the easiest way to do that is just message us. What is the likely outcome for individuals who sought political asylum, have resided in the country illegally for an extended period? Well, I'm assuming from this question that you mean this is someone who lost their case, like they sought asylum and they got denied. And then I have questions about, did they appeal? Did the BIA also deny it? Or did they just not appear in their court hearing? Like, if they appealed it and it was denied, that's an outstanding order of removal. It's kind of hard to do anything about. If they didn't appear for their hearing because they didn't know about it and the court didn't notify them, then maybe we could file a motion to reopen, and that comes with an automatic protection against deportation. So it depends on what happened in the court case about whether we can help, protect. But someone who has an outstanding order of deportation, who is living in this country, those are the frontline people that immigration is looking for right now. They're going after the folks who have orders of deportation and orders of supervision. That's who is the most vulnerable. Can I, as an immigrant, apply for or receive benefits without a social security number? No, you cannot. And this is why it's so ridiculous that they pass all of these measures about like immigrants may no longer receive, CHIP and TANF and Medicaid and all. It's like, well, they don't. They already don't because they don't have social security numbers. So no. If I have a clean record, is it safe for me to return to the United States as a dreamer with DACA? Can my son petition for me to adjust my status right away so I can come back? Something doesn't make sense about this question, because if you have a DACA, are you in the U.S. or out of the U.S.? Because you can't really leave the country with DACA unless you had advanced parole. But let's assume you're in the U.S., your son is an adult U.S. citizen, you get advanced parole, which is a travel permit, you leave, you come back, you have a legal entry, your son can now petition to adjust your status. So presuming you don't have any other bars, like unlawful presence bars or criminal history, yeah, that is the way that would function. Dreamer, adult kid, the dreamer gets advanced parole, goes out, comes back in, the adult kid can petition for an adjustment of status. My brother, a Mexican citizen, overstayed his work visa. I applied for him in 2004, and we are still waiting for a decision. I think they're in 2000 on those right now, so you have a few more years. My parents are legal residents. Will my brother have to leave the country when it is time for his application to be processed? Yes. The reason for this is that you filed for him after 2004, after 2001, so he's not eligible for an adjustment of status, so he would have to consular process and come back in. But because your parents are permanent residents, he could get a waiver for unlawful presence based on hardship to them. This is like a law school exam fact pattern. But yes, once his priority date becomes available, we could file for a waiver based on your parents and then consular process him. But you've still got another several years to go. Is it unlawful to interrogate a minor without a parent or guardian present? It is not. This is the thing about law enforcement. They have so much leeway to ask questions of anybody, any place, anytime. They can stop someone on the street and ask whatever questions they want. They can go into a school and ask kids whatever questions they want. It's up to the kids and the school and the people watching the children to protect the children. Law enforcement is trained to do what they need to do to get the information that they want, including lying, including asking children questions. So it's up to the people who are watching out for these kids to make sure that they're not being questioned by law enforcement, and talking to the children and helping them understand. You don't have to talk to the police. If the police are asking you questions, tell them, please call my mom. This is a sweet comment via Facebook. Ghoulish Jude. I love these names coming through today. Thank you for your work with immigrants. Thanks for being here, guys. And please feel free to share this live stream with folks. lots of important information for people. I'm here every week. I'm here all week. So I'm at time, and I've promised you guys that I want to share with you at the end of every live stream an action item that you can take if you want to help immigrants. This one is a little like cliche and tired, this business of just call your legislators. But what I want to recommend you do, this is what we're doing this week is we are calling our legislators, but it's real easy. We're making it simple. There's a website called 5calls.org, the number 5calls.org, or there's an app you can use. And it's so cool. I just did it. It's really easy. You can click, there's a list of issues that are in the news right now. And it knows your location. And then you click on the issue that you care about. And then it gives you your senators and your congressmen and their phone number and a script to read. Like, I'm your constituent and I don't like this thing. And here's all the reasons why. And you click the number. And most of the time, you're just leaving a message. You just read the script and then you've done your duty of making your voice be heard with Congress. It's so easy. And if you've had any like resistance or hurdles to the calling your legislators, because you're like, well, what do I do when they answer? And what do I say? This is your solution to that. You don't have to do any research about who to call, what the number is, or even what you say, other than just go to 5calls.org, make 3 calls this week to legislators and see how easy it is. And if you want to take it up a notch, record yourself doing it, post a video on social media, and encourage other people to do the same. Because these tallies of these calls really do matter to our elected officials about what's the feedback that they're getting from the people and the constituents. So there's your action tip for the week. Thanks again, guys, for being here. Hopefully next week we won't have so much heavy news, but we probably will. So I'll keep you up to date. See you next Tuesday.